I think that Arbor Circle has always striven to be an organization that is people-centered, that asks the question, how will this affect those we work with, those we serve? And I think that goes back to the very first part of the merger. I mean, I think initially, Jerry and I were thinking about reducing snowplow costs, and it was the clinical staff who sat down together and began to say, yes, that family that has a 5-year-old probably also has a teenager. That family that's struggling with mental health issues is probably also struggling with addictions. And it makes no sense for that family to have to receive care in 4 different places. And so the spirit and the vision of Arbor Circle has always been to bring comprehensive care, to meet people where they are.
I understood how very, very important these services are to our community. I wanted the staff to know how important their work was and how much it was needed, how much they were needed in the lives of the people that we served. I would also hope that the people that we served would know that not only myself, but those that worked with me, the team, honored them and treated them as full part of our community. Even though they had problems that they were coping with, dealing with, that they were an important part of our community and that they were worthy of coming to us for assistance, and that working together, we could help them overcome whatever it is that they were dealing with, but really wanted them to know that they were in the right place and that we were there to help them. And I would hope that we created an agency that made people feel that way, made them feel like, yes, I've come to the place where I need to be.
We had kids at the bridge who had never had a birthday cake. Lots of times they would come at the holidays, they would come at report card time, they would come on their birthdays, so times of great family stress. And I remember going over to the bridge one day, and there was a feisty little girl, and when I walked in, she said, "Are you the owner?" And I thought, I hadn't really, but it clearly was a language that she understood. And I said, "Kinda, I'm not really the owner, but kinda." And she said, "Well, they're making me a birthday cake." And I said, "Oh, that's great." And she said, "I've never had a birthday cake, so I hope they do a good job." But there was humor in it, but it was heartbreaking that this was a kid who was going to get her first birthday cake at Arbor Circle, something that most of the rest of us take for granted.
I had a heart for people and families that struggle with mental health issues, and I think that naturally drew me to this field. At that point in time, a lot of the other county commissioners were more concerned about the road commission and the aeronautics board, and I was drawn to both mental health and public health. That was pretty much what I brought to the table. I had a lot to learn as I moved to Grand Rapids Child Guidance Clinic, and I kind of accepted that challenge of learning mental health now from the administration side and from a nonprofit side, and I enjoyed that, and I tried to be a quick student in learning all of that. So we got off to a very good start, and the ride has been great.
Those early pioneers understood that. The people who started the Advisory Center for Teens, in a tiny house, they didn't know exactly what needed to be done, but they knew something needed to be done. And so people were willing to do that. And the same with people who were doing home-based services or substance abuse and addiction services. They were on the cutting edge of saying, we need to bring these services to the people of this community. And I think that plays out now in the work that, Arbor Circle is doing with LGBT youth, that Arbor Circle is doing with people in jail. You look at where the need is. I think that the organization, I've always been proud that the organization looks at the need and the gaps and then says, okay, what within our areas of expertise can we do to rectify that? And always creating a community of care in the process.
I would like to say that in the last 20 years that there are fewer problems for Arbor Circle to address, but that's not the case. I would also like to say that in 20 years there's more clarity in the mental health system, and I can't say that's true either. There is still significant reasons for Arbor Circle to be involved in the direct work with families and adults and children. There's still, in many respects, a desperate need for that work to continue. There will always be a need to add your voice to the advocacy that Arbor Circle brings to the table. There will always be a need for that. As a community, as a country, we're not focusing on how we're actually going to solve some of these problems, and we still need people to speak up to those issues and to speak up for the people that we serve. So 20 years in, there is still a need, and perhaps even more of a need today.
I have grandchildren. You project, when they were born, I was able to project myself into a future that I'm not going to be here to see. And that's a very powerful realization. And when I think about Arbor Circle, I see it projecting itself into the future through the lives of people that have been positively touched. I think I see Arbor Circle as playing a necessary role in our community, a role that isn't always understood or valued until we all like to think that we lived charmed lives. And they're charmed until something happens and we realize that the things that beset others also touch us in some way. In all of our lives, there are tragedies, there is trauma, there's times when we just can't do it by ourselves. We need others to stand with us. And that's the human condition, you know, to be frail sometimes, to be vulnerable, to not know where to turn. And a future with an organization like Arbor Circle makes it possible for people in those moments of need, of urgency, to not have to stand alone and to have voices that say you are valuable, you will get through this, you have it within you. That's what Arbor Circle is. And projecting into the future, because the human condition is such that there's always needs and hurts, Arbor Circle is a necessary part of our community.
You know, my friend here writes beautiful poetry. And in a sense, I see Arbor Circle like a beautiful work of poetry. Its gift to the community is one of bringing hope, bringing love, bringing strength, helping people whose lives have been shattered, and helping to put those pieces back together, and to get them to know that even though, you know, maybe the pieces are being glued back together, it still can be a good life. I think that poem is just a very beautiful poem, that it would be my prayer that that poem would just have another verse and another verse and another verse.